thank you for joining us for Overcoming Obstacles, Building a Better You. I'm Stephanie from the DataMark team, and I will be moderating today's presentation. Before we begin, I would like to let everyone know that we are recording this webinar and all attendees are muted for quality assurance purposes. If you have a question, please use the Q&A section of this platform and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. I'd like to introduce our very own Brian McMurdo as the presenter of this webinar. Brian is an emergency number professional and a NENA certified center manager. He's been in the emergency communications industry for the past 21 years and began his career with the Hamilton County Communications Center in Southwest Ohio. Brian has served as a frontlines emergency call taker and dispatcher and has over 16 years of leadership experience in the PSAP. He's the chairman of the Ohio Gold Star Awards program, which recognizes Ohio's public safety telecommunicators, and is currently serving as the Ohio NENA chapter secretary. So without further ado, take it away, Brian.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you all for tuning in today. I want to take a brief moment to personally thank you for the job that you're doing during this pandemic. I know many of you are on the front lines of this and taking the call and making sure that people are getting the help that they need. And the crazy thing is that even during this pandemic, the other stuff doesn't stop. You're still having to deal with the challenges to your center, the severe weather, the critical incidents, and the line of duty deaths I know several of your centers out there have had to face recently. So I want to thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for the sacrifices that you're making to ensure that your community's safe and that the officers and the firefighters and medical staff out there are safe. So thank you. And I'm going to shut my video off here as I start up here because I want you to be able to see the PowerPoint, and I also want you to see a video that I have in here. I don't want that the bandwidth problems I don't want there to be any issues there. So thank you again. I've been in the public safety industry for a little over 21 years now, as Stephanie said. The majority of that time has been at the Hamilton County Communications Center in Southwest Ohio. And I started off there on third shift as a call taker and dispatcher. A couple years later, I got into the training program and became a training officer. So I was training new employees. And then I was promoted to supervisor on third shift and promoted then a lead supervisor on second shift and first shift. And then ultimately, I was operations manager in Hamilton County until I joined the DataMark team. Well, you're gonna have to bear with me today because what I'm gonna share with you is personal. It's my story, and I'm the type of person who keeps my problems and struggles to myself. I try to work through them on my own and not burden other people with them. And I decided to share with you today in hopes that it may help someone out there. You see, I found that many times in my life, when I'm going through something, there's usually someone else who is going through something similar or has gone through something similar. I appreciated what Tracy Eldridge and Ricardo Martinez said this week during this conference. Tracy said at one point in her presentation, it's okay to not be okay. And Ricardo, what he shared on Tuesday, we have a story to tell. Each one of us have a story to tell, and it's important that we share that. And I really appreciated them sharing their presentations. But today, some of you may be facing some challenges or struggles, some obstacles. Maybe you're feeling stuck or overwhelmed. In our time together today, I'm hoping that you will realize your true potential and that you can do more than what you know. I hope that you will get motivated to get out of your comfort zone and overcome the obstacles that you're facing in your life, the challenges that you're facing in your life right now. While some of this information may be very basic, I hope that you'll be able to take some of it and apply it not only to your work life, but your home life and personal life as well. Well, here's a brief overview of what we're going to discuss in our time together today. We'll talk about obstacles, what they are. I'm going to have you identify your obstacles. It's an important part. Your comfort zone, we'll talk about what it is and why we've got to get out of it. And building a better you. I have to ask you, how do you see you? We'll ask, who does building a better you benefit? And then it's important that you find your why. What do you need to do? And then finally, what do you need to do to be successful at building a better you? So what are obstacles? Obstacles are something that blocks one's way or prevents or hinders progress. Sometimes these obstacles can shake us to our core. If we were all in the same room and I asked you a question, how many here have faced obstacles or are facing obstacles in their life? I have no doubt that practically everyone in the room would raise their hand. We all face obstacles. So I want to ask you, what obstacles are you up against? This is the point where I'm going to ask you all to turn on your webcams. And I'm going to go individually and put you on camera here and let you tell us what you're facing right now. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to do that. There's no point in this presentation that you're going to have your webcam on for everybody to see. We may have just lost a few viewers there for that one. I'm just kidding. But many times we face similar obstacles. A lot of us face similar obstacles. And I think if I asked that to everyone in here right now, we would notice a lot of those similarities. At some point we've all faced financial challenges, or challenges with the job, challenges in our relationship. Maybe it's health, your own health, or your family's health. We all face challenges, obstacles. A couple weeks before Christmas last year, we got some bad news about my dad. He was diagnosed with an aggressive stage 4 lung cancer that has spread to his lymph nodes. His health has been up and down for many years, but this news really hit our family hard. When we come up against obstacles, it's really important that we identify them. We have to not only identify them, but we have to recognize what we do when we come up against them. So what do you do? Do you look at the impossibilities of that obstacle? You come up against it and just say, there is no way that I'm going to be able to overcome that. And do you retreat back to what you know, to what you're comfortable with? Several years ago, I found myself in an extremely low point in my life. I was in a dark place. For one, I was tipping the scales at about 430 pounds. I was stressed out to the max with my job and some of the challenges there. I was dealing with some health issues of my parents and my wife's parents, the health issues that they were having, and having to take care of them. And there were a few other things that I had to deal with at that time. I realized that I was depressed and I needed help. And I recall the moment that I recognized that I was at a crossroad. It was a warm summer evening, and I had put my kids to bed. My wife had fallen asleep earlier in the day, or earlier in the evening, rather. And I was the only one awake. I had all kinds of stuff running through my head. I decided to go outside, and I turned the porch light off. I don't have any street lights on our street. So I went out to my truck, pulled the tailgate down, and just sat there in the dark. I was feeling a lot of different things, but I was feeling really frustrated and just alone that night. And so many thoughts were running through my head. Work. I had a few calls that I had taken at the center. I had dealt with a couple line of duty deaths of firefighters for the department we dispatched for. I was thinking about my family, my weight, my kids, my childhood. All that was just running recklessly like a derailed train. And I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. I had some irrational thoughts that night. I remember sending a few messages to some people, just reaching out, hoping that they would respond. I knew that one was working and probably wouldn't be able to get back with me, and I figured the others were probably already in bed. No one responded that night, I'm not mad or frustrated or upset with that at all, but I did feel more alone than I ever did, and I had some pretty dark thoughts. Things like how the world would be better off without me. Stuff like I'm worth more dead than alive. I didn't do anything irrational that night, but I realized that I was in rough, uncharted territory. I made my way back into the house around 4:30 that morning and went to bed. I was quiet, didn't wake my wife. She woke up a little later, about an hour later, and got ready for work and went on, but not knowing the hell that I had went through that night. The following days, it took all within me to get out of bed. I had hit my low point, and I knew I needed help. Overall, I had a good childhood. I had parents who cared for me, and two younger brothers. Had two younger brothers there. They were great, and my parents, they loved us. They cared for us. My dad worked hard. I mean, he lived and breathed his work. He put a ton of hours in every week and worked hard to provide for our family. My dad's health, it wasn't the greatest growing up. He was morbidly obese. At his highest weight, he was just under 700 pounds. And I realized my dad had a great deal of stress in his job, and ultimately his health and weight prevented him from continuing to work. And this had a significant impact on my family. Over the years, I will say my dad, he did lose some weight, and his health had somewhat improved. But we were still up and down a lot of times with his health. As a kid, we didn't go to Major League Baseball games because my dad couldn't fit in the seats. We didn't go to amusement parks because he couldn't walk far and couldn't ride the rides. I remember one time my dad had drove my brothers and I up by our local amusement park. He pulled into a nearby parking lot, and we sat there in this parking lot looking at the tops of the roller coasters. And I remember how badly I wanted to go in there and ride those coasters. I don't think my dad did it to hurt us. And I now realize that he wanted to take us in there, but couldn't. I guess he thought watching from the parking lot was the next best thing. As a father to my own kids, I was coming to the realization that I was heading down the same direction as my dad. I was able to take the kids to the amusement park. I could still do that, but I couldn't fit on the roller coasters. I remember, though, taking my oldest son to Kings Island, our local amusement park, and he wanted to ride his first roller coaster, and I wanted to take him on it. I stood in line with him. I was nervous. I was wondering if I would fit. And I started looking at other big guys in line and comparing myself to them. And as I watched, watched them closely as each one of them got on and actually fit and were able to get in and go. So I thought I had it made, as I'm standing there in line. I was still a little nervous, but my son and I's time came. My son settled in and pushed his bar down and was settled in. I squeezed into my seat and began to push the bar down. I couldn't get it locked. And the employee came up and began to push as hard as they could to get it to latch. And I wanted so badly for that thing to latch and lock. My son, he's sitting there watching the whole time. And they pushed and pushed and couldn't get it to lock. And I was told that I'd have to get off the ride. And I don't know if any of you have ever had to take the roller coaster walk of shame, but it's no fun. I'm not sure if any of you have seen the disappointment and the embarrassment in your own child's eyes. I did that day, and it tore me up, and it still tears me up. I didn't even try to take my daughter on her first roller coaster ride. I love baseball. My kids love baseball. We're a baseball family, definitely. And I'm a big St. Louis Cardinal fan, as you can see there on the left. I was coming to the realization that it wasn't going to be too long, and I wouldn't be fitting in the ballpark seats. You know, when I went with the family, I would have to strategically place my kids. I wouldn't even try to sit next to another adult because I'd be taking up probably half their room, their seat. You know, my kids were smaller, so I could end up taking some of their space. I know that wasn't comfortable for them or fair. When I got hired at the communication center, I was 19 years old. I was assigned to work third shift, and a shout out to all you third shifters tuning in today. It takes a special person to work that shift. And this was the first time that I had worked for third shift. I'd ultimately end up spending 12 years on thirds. And I always found out that 3 a.m. to 5 a.m. was the hardest time for me to stay awake. So I would drink massive amounts of Mountain Dew and 5-hour energy drinks and a lot of snacks just to keep me awake. It wasn't healthy, and I knew that, and I was packing on the pounds. But I began to work my way up in the organization, and I was promoted to supervisor. You know, new responsibilities, new stresses. But as a supervisor, that I had to lead through some extremely difficult situations. And one of the most challenging was leading the shift through the line of duty death of 2 firefighters during a structure fire. This department lost 2 firefighters. When this happened, I had worked hard to make sure that everyone on my shift was okay. I worked hard to make sure that they were okay during the day, but also the following days and the following weeks. The one thing I did is I neglected myself. I contained and compartmentalized my emotions, my feelings, and I buried them. I put them way deep down inside. And I tell you, that would ultimately come back to bite me. Over the years, I became pretty good at containing and compartmentalizing my feelings. I became pretty good at putting on the mask. And not many people knew the pain that was behind that smile. And I know many of you listening have taken some calls that have just stuck with you. Some of you supervisors and trainers, you may have listened to some of the calls that your employee or trainee have taken, and even listening to those may have had a few that stuck with you. Well, I've had a couple calls of my own that have stuck with me, and I'll tell you one of them. One of my calls. It was one night. I was actually my first time working overtime, and we had a storm rolling through, and the tornado sirens went off, and I'm sure many of you can relate when that happens. The calls just flood the center. And so call after call after call, I'm answering the same question. You know, why are the tornado sirens going off? Because this, you know, and so I just kept getting those calls. So each call that I was getting, I thought it's going to be the same thing. Well, one wasn't. And I hear this woman screaming hysterically. And when the information popped up on the screen, I recognized the city that it was in. I recognized the last name. I knew there was a guy by that last name that I went to high school with. Well, I got the mom calmed down, the woman calmed down a little bit, and found out that it was a mother who had come home to find her son lying in a pool of blood, and that he had shot himself. And this was the guy that I went to high school with. It was hard to hear the screams of that mother. The other were a couple calls that I reviewed as a manager. And one was a mom that had put her son, or I'm sorry, her child in a high chair. It was actually her daughter, but she had put the child in a high chair, and as she did that, the child was kicking back in the high chair. She kicked back, and the chair flipped over, and the child's head went through a glass curio cabinet, severing a main artery. So this mother is calling 911 and literally watching her child bleed out right in front of her. And the screams from that mother as she was watching her child die, just it was terrible. The worst thing that you could hear. The next call, and I it was the same call taker, the same dispatcher took the same call. She took the other call, but she took it. And there was this neighbor that was calling in. His neighbor, the father, was walking out of the house to leave, and his kids were all playing outside. The father didn't realize that one of his smaller children had climbed under the vehicle. And I'm not going to go into all the graphic details of this call because it was horrific. But the father had backed over the child, and it killed him instantly. I don't know if any of you have kids out there but as a father, to know that you ran over your child and killed him instantly. Just imagine how you would feel, and you'd be screaming. I mean, it was those kind of just agony, just the worst cries ever. And that dispatcher is hearing it and getting them the help that they need. And I've got to give a shout out. It takes a special person to do what you do, and it takes a special person to do what this call taker did. And I want to give a shout out to her. She's since retired, but she was a great employee, and amazing how she dealt with this accident, these two calls, how she dealt with them while they were happening, but also how she handled it afterwards. Many of us who have been in this industry for a while, we come from an age where it was expected for us to suck it up, to just deal with it. It's all part of the job. An age where if you showed that you were struggling with a tragic call or incident, if you were struggling with that, you were showing a sign of weakness. Well, shame on us for allowing that to happen. Man, it's so important that we deal with and process things. We've got to understand that it's okay to not be okay, like Tracy said. We've got to take better care of ourselves and our staff. And I applaud and welcome this push in our industry right now for both mental health and wellness. It's encouraging to see centers establishing peer support teams that not only help the telecommunicators in their center, but also centers around them in other cities and counties and even states. And I do want to give a shout out to Hamilton County for the work that they're doing and have done on their peer support team and the people that they've helped out. Well, feeling completely overwhelmed by everything I was dealing with and seeing that I was heading down a path that was not good for me or my family, I realized that I needed help. And I reached out to our employee assistance program, EAP. And I didn't even know what to say when I called. I ended up saying something like, I think I need to talk to someone. Well, I tell you, I ended up getting 10 visits, and I used each one of those. I kind of thought, how's this going to go? Who am I going to see? And I was thinking about the movies. I'm probably going to have to go in and lay on a couch, and there's going to be, a guy over there with glasses on with a notepad and writing down everything I say. Well, there was a couch. I didn't have to lay on it. And there was a guy that was writing down some stuff that I would say, but but it wasn't anything like I really imagined. And I tell you, once I started, when I got in there and started talking, it was just, I was letting stuff out that had been holding on. It was just amazing. It was just coming out, just flowing like a fire hose. And I think the guy, the first visit, he was like, hey, you're gonna have to hold on and save some for the next visit. So, but it was amazing, and it was very helpful to let a lot of that stuff go. And I also during this time, I talked with my primary care doctor, and this was all new to me. And honestly, I will tell you, I felt weak. I felt weak for needing to seek help. But for those of you listening today, I want to tell you, if you find yourself down and out, overwhelmed, I want to tell you there is nothing weak about asking for help. And talking with my doctor, I began to research some things. I began to research weight loss surgery. I'd lost weight in the past, and it was always come back plus some. But I was at a point where I knew that I needed help. And as I was making this decision about surgery, I tell you, one thing I struggled with is I was so worried about what other people would think. I thought that they would be thinking I'm taking the easy way out. And I do want to say, the surgery, it's a tool, but in no way is it an easy way out or a simple fix. And I want to say too, you've got to make sure that you're mentally prepared and ready to make a complete lifestyle change. I went forward with the surgery, and shortly after, I began to exercise, and primarily I was just walking at that point. And I just want to say too, I'm amazed at the people that come into our lives when they come into it, the paths that cross in our life. Well, I was walking, like I said, on a regular basis, and when it was nice outside, or when it was nice, I'd walk outside. When it wasn't, I'd walk in our local high school gym. We have a small track around the basketball court. Well, one day I'm walking, and I passed this guy several times, and this guy, he was muscular and fit. You could just tell he was in great shape. And I do want to say too, that's not him in the picture up there, just in case you were wondering that. That's not him. But as I walked around him several times, I noticed on the back of his shirt, it said, "I'm training for a Spartan." And I kind of had an idea of what the Spartan was. I figured it was like a mud run or something, had some sort of obstacles and stuff. And I knew it was probably challenging. But anyway, I passed him several times, and as I began to pass him one final time, I said, I'm passing you on your left. And I started passing him. I said, "I'm training for a Spartan." And he laughed, and I laughed. And as I got past him, he yelled up and said, "Hey, you should join us next Thursday. We have a group that's training to do a Spartan." So I slowed down, and we walked around together. And for those of you who don't know what a Spartan race is, it's like I was saying up there, it's an obstacle course race, kind of like a mud run. They have different levels. The sprint, which is about 4 miles and about 20 obstacles. The super, which is 8+ miles and 25 obstacles. And then the beast, which is 13 miles and about 30 obstacles. I told him, I said, "Thanks for the invite, but I'm out of shape. I'm trying to get to a place, and where I am in shape." And I said, "I don't think I could do the Spartan yet." Well, he went on to tell me that Thursday night, the group is made up of all sorts of people and all fitness levels. And, there's some people that can do 100 push-ups easily, and there's some people that struggle to even do one. Well, I went back and forth on going to it to do this training. I ended up going to one a couple weeks later. And I tell you, the people were so positive and encouraging. And that night I decided I was going to go full force with this thing. I was going to do a Spartan race, and I was going to train for it. There's obstacles that I struggle with out there, but but with help, I overcame many of them. This may sound just a little bit crazy, but doing the Spartan race, it put a lot of things into perspective for me. Out there on the course, I realized there's similarities in life. We're all going to come up against obstacles. It's inevitable. We're all going to come up against them. Some of them, we won't see any way around it. We'll only see the impossibility of overcoming it. And I tell you, I put a picture on this slide. The inverted monkey bars were that for me. They scared me. At 430 pounds, and I wasn't at this time when I was doing these things, but you don't ever picture yourself up that high trying to climb over something. And so there was fear. I had a lot of fear when I was doing this. And it was one of those obstacles where I looked at it, I'm like, there's no way I can do it. But I tell you, with the encouragement of the people I was with, and that day it was John. He's the one that was wearing the Spartan shirt that I met when I was walking around the track. He was there, and a good friend, and his son Braden, also a good friend, and they were encouraging me. And I was able to get up one bar, and then the next bar, and then I was over. If you look over to the left, you can see where that woman is up and got her arm over. That's about where I was, and that's where that fear just kind of hit me. I'm up pretty high off the ground, and how am I going to get up and over this? And instantly I was like, I'm going to have to stop. I'm not going to be able to do this. And so they kept cheering me on and were, saying, come on, Brian, come on, Brian. Well, little did I know that a large group had started to pick up behind me. And then I started to hear in the background, come on, Brian, you can do it. You got it. Come on. And just this cheering for me, this encouragement by other people, even people that I didn't know. And I went ahead and it took all within me, but I got up and over it, and I conquered that obstacle. And there was a couple things here that I recognized and realized that day, that there are people in our lives, people around us that want to help, that want to encourage us, that want to help us overcome the obstacles and the challenges that we're facing. I began to realize this time what I'm capable of. I began to realize that I'm capable of so much more than I thought I was able to do. And I want to share these two slides, or this slide and these two pictures here. The one on the left was my first Spartan Beast, that 13-miler one. And I tell you, it was rough. It was rough. There were so many times out there that I wanted to quit. And by the end of this, I felt like my legs were going to fall off. I felt like I was done. And as I got out there and I'm coming towards the end, I was thinking about my kids. I was thinking about that roller coaster. I wanted my kids to see me finish this thing. And I'm so thankful that I got this picture here, the one on the left here. As you can see me, I'm over there. And at that point, I had just locked eyes right towards the finish line. I locked eyes with my kids and my wife who were cheering me on. And I tell you, I was tearing up as I looked over there. And then at that moment, I turned my head back and I was thinking, I'm so thankful that it rained that day, because I don't know if you noticed there what Braden, the one guy that just jumped over, but that's fire. So there towards the end, you have to jump over fire. And usually it's, a normal day, it's raging pretty good, but I'm so thankful that it was raining that day, and all I had to do was hop over that thing, because I don't know that I could have jumped over it. So sore. The next one was a big accomplishment for me in regards to Spartan and finding out what I'm capable of. I I went to West Virginia, and they do these things. Spartan does these things called trifecta weekends. And that's where you do the beast, the super, and the sprint all in one weekend. So, pretty much 26 miles in a weekend, and all kinds of obstacles. And I'm proud to say that I was able to accomplish that one weekend in the mountains of West Virginia. And so challenging, so difficult. So many times I thought I was going to die, literally die out there, but I made it. So I wanted to share those things with you. So now I want to talk. I want to go right into the comfort zone. So what is it? What is the comfort zone? It's a place or situation where one feels safe or at ease with minimal to no stress. And that sounds good, doesn't it? That sounds like a great place to be. A place with minimal to no stress. Who would want to who would want to leave that place? Well, we've all become too familiar with it. And we stay in it. It's what we know, it's what we're familiar with, it's what we're comfortable with. So we stay in it. And that we're missing out on so much by staying in that. And I do want to say, to grow, to find yourself, you have to move beyond your comfort zone. And I will tell you, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. And I love this slide here, and I want to kind of go through it with you. Take a look at it. Moving beyond our comfort zone is challenging. It's going to take determination and drive. It's going to take a lot within us just to get out of it. But we can do it. When you move beyond your comfort zone, you move into a realm of the fear zone. And that's an appropriate name for that. And I think many of us can relate to the fear zone. Many of us have been there. In the fear zone, we make excuses. We lack self-confidence. And we are affected by the opinions of others. That was me. And that's enough just to draw us right back into the comfort zone. We get in that fear zone and we go right back to the comfort zone. If we're able to break through that fear zone, we move into the learning zone, as you can see there. And when we get into this zone, we're making some progress. We're learning to deal with our challenges, our problems, our obstacles. We're acquiring new skills, and most importantly, listen to this, we're extending our comfort zone. And when you see just beyond the learning zone is the growth zone. And that growth zone, this is where you find yourself. In it, you find your purpose, you conquer your obstacles, you live your dreams and set new goals. If you're going to overcome your obstacles, it is imperative that you get out of your comfort zone. Now, to build a better you, it's important to know how you see yourself. I'm just going to ask you, how do you see you? You've got to see your worth. You've got to know that you are unique and amazing and capable of more than what you think. Sometimes that's hard to do. So many of us see ourselves differently than how others see us. And I got a video I want to play here for you, and make sure I got the audio so you can hear that. It's really important.
I'm a forensic artist. Worked for the San Jose Police Department from 1995 to 2011.
I showed up to a place I'd never been, and there was a guy with a drafting board.
We couldn't see them, they couldn't see us.
Tell me about your hair.
I didn't know what he was doing, but then I could tell after several questions that he was drawing me.
Tell me about your chin.
It kind of protrudes a little bit, especially when I smile.
Your jaw?
My mom told me I had a big jaw.
What would be your most prominent feature?
Kind of have a fat, rounder face.
The older I've gotten, the more freckles I've gotten.
I would say I have a pretty big forehead.
Once I get a sketch, I say thank you very much, and then they leave. I don't see them.
All I had been told before the sketch was to get friendly with this other woman, Chloe.
Today I'm going to ask you some questions about a person you met earlier, and I'm going to ask you some general questions about their face.
She was thin, so you could see her cheekbones. And her chin, it was a nice, thin chin.
She had nice eyes. They lit up when she spoke.
Cute nose.
She had blue eyes, very nice blue eyes.
So here we are. This is the sketch that you helped me create, and that's a sketch that somebody described of you.
So yeah, that's...
She looks closed off and fatter, sadder too. The second one looks more open, friendly, and happy.
I should be more grateful of my natural beauty. It impacts the choices and the friends that we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts everything. It couldn't be more critical to your happiness.
Do you think you're more beautiful than you say?
Yeah. Yeah.
We spend a lot of time as women analyzing and trying to fix the things that aren't quite right. And we should spend more time appreciating the things that we do like.
You know, we all have a tendency to find our flaws. We have to be grateful for who we are. We have to look for the positives and not dwell on the negatives. I really like what that woman said there towards the end. We need to be grateful. How we see ourselves impacts the choices and the friends we make, the jobs we apply for, how we treat our children. It impacts so much. Seeing yourself in a different way is extremely important in the process of building a better you. So who does building a better you benefit? Benefits you. I tell you, you will find purpose and realize your true potential. You'll conquer your obstacles that you didn't think you could. And new opportunities and new doors will open for you. Who does building a better you benefit? Benefits your family. I want to really highlight this over here to the right. Taking good care of you means that the people in your life will receive the best of you rather than what's left of you. And I tell you, this is one point where I feel so guilty because for so many years, my family got what was left of me and they deserved the best of me. And I can tell you that is something that I've worked very hard to change. Taking good care of you means that the people in your life will receive the best of you rather than what's left of you. And I will tell you too, as you are building a better you never know who you're going to inspire and who you're going to help get out of their comfort zone. And I want to show you a picture here to the left. That's my kids, and they did a Spartan race with me. We were, being big Cardinal fans, we saw that Spartan was doing a stadium Spartan, and it was at Busch Stadium in St. Louis, and we went and did that together. And I will say too, I'm so proud of my wife and my kids. This last year, we were able to do a Spartan together and complete it. So as a family, so real thankful for that. But again, taking care of you means that the people in your life are going to get the best of you rather than what's left of you, and you never know, as you're building a better you, who you may inspire. Building a better you. Who does building a better you benefit? Those around you. It'll benefit your friends, your coworkers, those you lead, your organization. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself first. I've had to remind myself that so many times. You can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself. And I want to add this picture right here to the left. I'm so proud of my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law had to overcome obstacles of cancer. She had a fight with cancer, and she won. And last year, she decided to take on the obstacles of the Spartan race, and she did it. She completed it. So I'm so proud of her. She got out of her comfort zone and did it. So what do you need to do to be successful? Or what do you need to be successful when building a better you? This may sound crazy, but you have to know that you're allowed to take care of you. In our industry, the public safety industry, we're all about taking care of others. All those people are calling in for help. We're about helping them. The officers, the firefighters in the field, all about helping and ensuring that they get what they need. Then in our personal lives, and I think no matter who you are, GIS, a person listening in today, or public safety, in our personal life, we may be taking care of sick parents, or we, as parents, we may be taking care of our kids, our pets, and we put everybody and everything else before ourselves. I want to tell you today, you are allowed to take care of you. What do you need to do to be successful? As we said earlier, you have to identify your obstacles. You have to know what you're up against, and you have to understand what you're capable of. You have to understand that you are capable of overcoming them. Oops, sorry about that. You have to find your why. Find the why that stirs up that emotion. A good friend of mine told me once, find the why that makes you cry. And I thought that was pretty good. Find the thing that is going to help you hold steadfast to what you're trying to accomplish, even when the storms, the obstacles, the challenges come up against you. Find your why that's going to help you hold steadfast. Find the why that stirs up that emotion. You have got to get out of your comfort zone. This part is imperative. It's going to be challenging and it's going to be uncomfortable, but you have to get out of it to find your true potential and to live your dreams. So get out of that comfort zone. And finally, community. You have got to surround yourself with people who are heading the same direction that you want to head. People who are going to encourage you and lift you up rather than tear you down. And I want to share with you today my community. And over to the left here, you can see this is the Spartan workout group. This is the group that did the Spartan together. So, and right up there is a good friend, an amazing man, a mentor, John, right up there front. That's the man that our paths crossed out there on that high school track indoor, and so thankful for him and that group of people. Also over here to the right, I have a walking group that we stumbled upon. We meet in downtown, our downtown area that we have in our community, and get together on Saturday mornings and walk. Go do a walk, and then settle in and have some coffee and talk. So important to have a community. Find that. Don't if you're kind of more of an introverted person, don't be afraid to reach out and introduce yourself, but get out there. And I know that with this whole new challenge of social distancing and stuff, that's brought a whole new set of challenges for us. But boy, there's things you can do virtually, little workout groups and little things, and just find that community. Again, that people are going to encourage and support you and lift you up rather than tear you down. And some great people there, and that's my community. And I want to share with you my why. This is the why that stirs up the emotion. You know, I couldn't ride the roller coaster with my son the first time, his first roller coaster ride. And I didn't even try to take my daughter on hers. But over there to the right, you can see that I did get to ride the roller coaster with them. And I do. I enjoy riding those things now with them. And over to the left, because I didn't get to take my son and my daughter, my oldest and my middle child on their first roller coaster ride, but I did get to take my youngest, and that's me and him over there on the left on his first roller coaster ride. This is my why. And I had that picture there in the center, little Captain America. That smile just cracks me up. Guys, sometimes the thing that's holding you back is all in your head. I just want to encourage you today. You can overcome your obstacles. You're capable of far more than what you know. I just want to wish you the best, and thank you again for tuning in today. And I'm going to add put up my contact info here. If there's anything I can ever do for you, any questions or anything you have, please feel free to reach out. And I wish you the best. Thank you.